Alrighty. So, yep, we're rolling now. Um,
Alrighty.
this is going to be a video detailing sort of our plans or what we're sort of thinking for you guys to run and how we might want to play uh, Havana Attack. This will be us. Currently, we're not super committing on enemy team comp just because what we see may be very fluid. Uh, but we can probably account for some different play styles. We're just going to run you through the general potential routing and ways to approach this map.
Yes. Shall we just kind of go over the general thesis of this comp? Or like what you're kind of looking for?
Let's start off by listing the heroes semantically. Helps a lot more than we think. Dan,
Well,
tank line,
oh,
Orisa. Obviously, you have your pull, fortify, the stationary shield. Uh, Pretty standard. There's Sigma, mobile sort of shield and whatever. Just because he goes there, you just have to watch that new shield cooldown. Um, yep, we have Widow Tracer. So Tracer is obviously highly mobile, and Widow is maybe somewhat highly mobile. It's a bit of an interesting combination, but I'm intrigued by what we can pull off with this comp. We'll explain sort of what some of the ideas are in a minute, and then
yes.
lastly, potentially the Brig Zen backline. Brig always because she's really good in high sustain healing, but if you're having trouble landing whips or and there's not flankers, I think the first thing is actually if there's not flankers, um, BAP is also a possibility here instead of the Brig. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I included that up here. Yeah. Let's just make sure I'm actually in the right scene. Yes, I think I am. Good. Um, and yeah, now we can sort of go into how we want to play this comp. So please take it away.
Cool. So basically the general thesis of this composition, specifically this style of double shield, is you want to be narrowing down the sight lines that the enemy are able to take and slowly, you know, claim some heads with these two special friends right here. These two are kind of are going to be like the main carries of this comp in a way. They're going to be doing a lot of the final killing, but for the rest of us and Brig a little bit, um, it's mainly narrowing down the enemy sightlines and slowly forcing them into a position to where most of them exist, and it enables our Widow Zen to do what they need to do. So we're going to just do attack for this video. I'm going to start off. Um, so the way we want you guys to kind of roll this out, um, this main street shouldn't be a problem for you whatsoever, just because enemies don't really hold close on this map. If they do, you break it, and then it's easy to break, and then you slowly push your way up this street, and then your first kind of setup will be happening around this corner. So what you want to do is you want to send these two around this way, like we usually do with this comp, and get them set up. Excuse me, right here, just about. Widow doesn't have to show just quite yet because the element of surprise is very important on this character. So she can just kind of hang out. But if we see people hanging, she can look for a little something something over there. Um, and then our tracer is going to be making her way over here underneath, looking to eventually move into this room to get set up. This room back here. Oh, well, he beat me to it. uh, excuse me. And then our core is just going to kind of be existing on payload, where our Zen and Brig are going to be safe, and Orisa is just going to be doing most of the front facing for our team. So eventually, we're going to find ourselves in this position right here. Now, this is kind of where the sight lines start to need to be narrowed down. When you're first playing into playing into the enemy defense, no matter how they're set up, you can't really narrow their sight lines because they control this entire structure over here to start. So what we need to do is we need to take control of this structure, and the way we kind of have that happening is, well, because we have a Zen and an Orisa and a Sigma looking all up there. So eventually, these people peeking up here are going to want to make their exit this way. And the reason why we have Tracer here is because as that's happening, she can come in the back or hang out underneath, depending on what she's feeling more comfortable with, and kind of look for those possibly picks as these people are leaving, but she's just kind of sweeping them out of the door a little faster. We'll say, just on cleanup duty in a sense. And the reason I have positioned Widow here in this little back area is, oh, that's a weird way to do circles. Um, is because now what she has control of is this entire sight line. And what's happening is if the enemy is, leaving this way, there's a big contact point right here. And this is our first, chance for our Widow and or a Zen. Whoever's feeling a little more spicy, Zen could maybe also come over here and look for a little action. But that's your main first sightline, sort of your, I guess, first possibility to secure some eliminations as either of those heroes.
Um,
We can go ahead.
I'd like to add something. So I feel I
Yeah.
should have explained this a little earlier. Currently, our plan details as cart moves from its initial position to corner. Widow is stationary, sort of in this room looking for picks. I don't know if that's really my favorite application of her. I think I would like to have her either peeking point or playing cover or something like that back here so we can. So our first goal, like we stated, is to gain control of this left side structure. And I don't think we can really do that with just pulls or like a lot of poke very easily from our core. I want the kill potential of the Widow down there. I think potentially
Yeah.
starting in the back left area here by where payload started might be nice if you're Widow. Just looking to follow up on pulls and potentially secure headshots to pressure this space. And in this, then we can sort of think about moving over more here towards our Sigma to help with this sort of point of contact that we're explaining. Another quick
Yeah.
thing about sort of Tracer in this composition is I don't really think I'm not inclined like if I'm the Tracer player, I'm not looking for kills. And it's not just because I can't or anything like that. It's because what we're providing on Tracer is just going to be pressure from all the angles that we need. We want to get our Tracer into a position like this so we can eventually push the enemy team and dissuade them from existing in places like here or here or here or like up here or anything like that by moving them into sight lines that our Widow can control and that our whole core, for that matter, can control with our high, just general sightline presence. So, as Tracer, you're sort of the, I don't even know, just sort of, I've heard the term like shepherd used before to sort of guide the enemy team's pack into a place where we can follow up. Yeah, without further ado, I just want to make that quick amendment.
Yes. Thank you. Um, so yeah, continuing on with that in mind, our next move once we get payload up and around. Oh, good, excuse me. Up and around into this area. This is where things might get a little rough for us, but I think we'll be fine. Um, so we're gonna kind of have our core kind of swing around, just kind of with the payload. Our Sigma is gonna want to move to really like corral the enemy into this space in a way. They might go back here, but that's okay. Um, but we really want our Sigma established in this sort of area up here. Oh, yeah, I have to get rid of the lines, I guess. Right around here, he can use either the stairs as natural cover, which allows him to back up to here, which he'll be safe in, and he'll have his shield health, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him. But he just wants to exist in and around this general area. Our Widow can now, I don't know if you're still in agreement with this, but our Widow can look to move into this sort of structure and start looking for peaks, maybe from this angle, maybe from this back angle, maybe up top on this balcony. But she should just look to move to this structure in general. And then Zen, I'm assuming, stays with this pack as well, moving the cart.
Um, Sure. I think you brought up an interesting situation here. If by chance that they split, if some of the enemy goes sort of here
Into that
and
mega
some of the
area.
enemy goes here. I
Yeah.
think something that's really key to point out is which one we really want dead first. I think it's good for Widow to rotate to this position if we want to start pressuring this sort of left side area for us. For that matter, I think Tracer and Sigma might be somewhat strong operating over there, just pressuring and stuff like that, and sort of
Yeah.
like obviously we want people more towards the right side so our widow can have like total sightline dominance. So this sort of area and these boxes on the right side are where we sort of want our enemies to be. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, no real nothing revolutionary there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if the enemy is all in this like bottom right space, it might just be better for our widow to hang out like main or something
No, yeah.
and chill with their zen.
Yeah. Just some ideas.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, we want to give you guys options.
yeah. So going on to second. Um, this first little area here isn't too much to worry about. Just because, we have, really good control of this kind of space. And the enemy is eventually going to have to back because they don't really have a lot of good cover in, excuse me, in this sort of space. There's not really a lot of good cover, which is where a lot of the teams will like first start holding because they eventually want to back up into this area. So, we'll first be looking to force them out of this front area up here. We want to make this ours first. And then as the payload progresses along, we then have to narrow the sight lines in this position. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a good approach to this point as well is yeah, good. We start moving our units. I like it. Um, Obviously deciding sort of where you want the enemy to be, and I think again that's a pretty powerful place to be, sort of on the Sigma and the Tracer. Like the rest of so Double Shield is an interesting comp fundamentally, just because we have very much this idea of like a central, like a core, and then we have like a pretty balanced distribution of heroes who want to sort of exist in the core and people who are good for off angling and stuff like that. I guess I can highlight them in diamonds and stuff like that. Sigma can sort of operate as both, I suppose. But we want to sort of play for our off anglers by having Tracer again push people and be
You're
really
cutting out.
annoying from the side. I should be fine on my side, I think.
Oh,
What
okay.
you call it? Like we just TLDR, we have to think about where on Tracer and Sigma we really want to be pushing the enemy to enable our core's sightlines and our widow sightlines. So I think a lot of the time we'll see engagements taken sort of like enemies holding on the floor here or towards high ground where our Sigma is currently, and we sort of just want to move them away, preferably on the low ground to this space here. Oops, still on that tool. Whatchamacallit, to just this whole backspace here. And here, of course, we have potential free reign on Widow if we move her onto gas, I think this is. I'm not quite sure. I call it gas, but
Silo, gas, whatever.
yeah, I mean, this is a decent spot for Widow to follow up on people. A bit risky. This is a decent sight line as well from the stairs all the way down to keep clearing angles and stuff like that. And yeah, mostly it's just going to come down to a lot of good old double shield fundamentals, playing for your core, evaluating your
Yep.
resources, taking cover when you need, and obviously using cover. Um,
Yes.
and a lot of sort of timing your engages on Tracer, because we don't want to leave our Tracer hanging in there alone. I think when Tracer is pressuring, I think Sigma should be pressuring as well, and Tracer, you can sort of watch for Sigma to do that since he's the tankier one. He can sort of take a lot of the aggro for you, to use another term.
Yes. Okay. So this is kind of where we want the enemy to end up. So to kind of, leverage that and to make that easier, as the cart progresses, our Orisa is obviously just going to be existing on cart. Have fun with that. Brigand's End will, slowly move with her, potentially taking their own little peaks on that, same sight line as well with that the Orisa controls. Our Sigma and our Tracer, what they can do is once we've, well established ourselves kind of in more of this area, really, and like we've really kind of gained this back sort of, sorry, go on, switching colors, in this like sort of area here. I think what our Sigma Tracer can do is they can move together up into this space and control this space, because now what we do is we not only have covered and hopefully cleared this area, but we've also cleared this area. So there's really nowhere left for them to run other than this back space, which is where we want them to be. And then our Widow obviously has many different angles she can go from. She can go from here. She can go from colors. This is annoying. She can go up here. She can go maybe over here if she's feeling a little lucky. Back here. There's just, so many places for her to be that are just such huge threats for the enemy in this sort of situation. I drew this thing back here though, because this is where we want to be careful of. Same with more like over here, but if we're playing into a sniper or anything like that, there are those are big threats for anybody really. But yeah, that might be a bit arbitrary for what we're trying to talk about right now, but
I
here it should
think
be
it's totally
mentioned
that.
nonetheless.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think this widow spot here is an interesting spot that I enjoy because we sort of get to soft counter and clear this angle first before we have to worry about any input from this sort of this angle here. As you can see, like this window is wide. Oops. Uh, um, this window is wide and there's potential maybe for them to land a shot on you here, but it's unlikely if you're peeking in a way. So basically, like, systematically peeking on Widow, I think this is probably a better spot to start in, so you can clear this spot, and then we can maybe
Definitely
move up to a
starting there,
spot
yeah.
where we can clear the other window. It's food for thought.
Because what you have to consider though is while Sigma and Tracer have a handle on this spot right here, the only one that really has a handle on this spot is Orisa at this time. So you just have to be careful with how you're doing it. And maybe you want to pull send that way to take out any peekers. Like a little funny, just an idea. But yeah, move on to third point.
I don't really have
Yes.
yes, I don't really have a lot of revolutionary input for third.
Yeah, nothing's really crazy about third point. We know it, we love it, we hate it. Um,
I mean, of course, like again, thinking about the widow, so like I can't understate the importance of the widow in this composition and stuff like that, and how really vital you are to ensuring our team's success. Like a lot of people are setting up for you, obviously no pressure and stuff like that for you or Arzen, I suppose, but you won't be able to peek quite the same angles. Um, so for that reason, you have to think about preserving, like playing Widow a little bit more to preserve your own life, and you don't have to take as much risks because your team can set up for you decently. And I want to see again, sort of like systematically peeking angles and clearing angles and stuff like that, almost like you're playing Valorant or something. Um,
yes.
like this is just some good old shooter fundamentals, I suppose. So again, places to watch out from here. Obviously, snipers can exist in this location, which is annoying. The chance that the entire team waits for us here or just somewhere down here mid.
Depends on what they have.
Yeah.
The main contention, basically, the main contention will be here, regardless of what they have, and your points of danger, we'll call it, are there. I don't really know about like here or here sometimes, but sometimes, and sometimes here, for when we're first making our move up this street right here, but this one right here is the big one that you see all the time, just because everyone likes to stand there until they get pulled. Then they don't like to stand there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the big one to start. When you're coming into third point, expect somebody to be there.
Fiddle to that position. Very funny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what you
Um,
call it? Yeah.
well, you go ahead while I move people.
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna say, definitely be mindful though on like sort of what we're using pull on and whether you think we can sort of push on that. Like if we're say like playing a double shield mirror or something like that, obviously the health of your shields matters and exerting pressure on the enemy matters a lot as well. So depending on whether you want to push the core or clear the angle for your widow, whichever you think is more useful. Like if Widow's totally feeding her brains out potentially and like really free in this top left angle, you can call that you're pulling her and stuff like that, and obviously potentially risk it for the biscuit, but know that you won't have pull for that frontline battle and stuff like that, and understand the cost there. So definitely, I want to see some a bit more. Potentially, we have more time to think about it on this comp too. More cerebral double shield play, especially resource wise with shield.
Yeah. So the way you win third point and Havana is really annoying is you kind of force them. Oh, excuse me, Tracer. Uh, into this back area, and then the problem with that is it's not as easy as it seems because they have these two rooms right here, which are very, very annoying for defend or for attackers to say the least, on top of or below, because so many people, benefit from standing in those positions, whatever the enemy team might be running. It's just a really good spot to stand. Um, so just kind of seeking to kind of control those rooms would be a really good way to kind of close out this map. As you know, slowly work your way up here. Maybe your Tracer has a little action over here. Sigma has a little action over here with the Regita, while Zen, hangs out in, a stone's throw. Widow can do Widow things. I don't really know where she would stand here. I guess there. Still, maybe. I don't really know. She would have to move up eventually. Um, but yeah. A quick note, and it's more of just kind of an aside. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to say it
Hmm.
because I don't know the whole thing with sending tanks.
To clear room.
No, up here
Oh,
to stand on this high ground. Like
uh,
once we get up this street.
we'll see. We'll see when we get there. I just worry about a rotation. Like we're really slow on this comp, and I don't want to leave our backline to dry if we get left behind somehow.
Sure. Well, okay. Here, let me actually explain it then to be a little less ambiguous. Um, Basically, the people that will go there are this guy and this girl, while the rest of us continue main. Tracer exists over here because that way you have really powerful sight lines both here and here.
Yeah.
And then
No.
if anything really threatens you, you just drop, and then you're good.
Yeah, I think that's a fun thing. Just note that as a core, if these guys are up here and exerting pressure and stuff like that, what this means for us is like, okay, cool. They've got sort of this sight line, and as we said, they have good pressure of sort of this entire left side, this close, and like everything between these arrows is just really theirs, frankly.
Basically, there's
We want to prevent them from being pushed, and we
yeah.
want to push the enemies more into their sightline. So we have to sort of think to wedge ourselves here so we can exert our own pressure and push the enemy into their sightlines again. Double shield is about sightline control. Smile. Who would have thought?
Well, we'd have to have somebody sit on cart, so have fun back there.
Yeah, I think Bap might be decent for that reason too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
If we run him, but yeah.
The way we would play it,
Oops, sorry. Let
or
me
the way we play our positions just varies if we have BAP.
boink.
But remember, BAP also has a gun. That hurts people.
Bap's gun cannot be understated.
Yeah, honestly. Um, well, I guess that's it for attack, really. Obviously, things will change mid game depending on what the enemy team is running, but they shouldn't change too much because we're still seeking to do our own thing before stopping what the enemy is doing.
Yeah, for sure. Whatchamacallit, like, I think again, like I had some swaps in mind, like maybe Bap for Brig. What you gain, what you lose, obviously. Like thinking about it with Brig, obviously you're losing a lot of fun, annoying CC for the enemy flankers if they're running any. Um, and you're losing that group of healing on the Inspire, but with Bap you get a little more burst healing. Obviously, Rally might be a little harder to think to use in these comps because it's like, oh, Rally, we push, right? But pushing a double shield can sometimes seem a little weird, and we might like hesitate with that. Definitely don't, and you can stand to be very aggressive sometimes as well. Um, but yeah, BAP offers us window and return, which is really fun for corralling people where we want them to be. Because we can do it as a core, as four people, probably the Arisa, Zen, BAP, and potentially Sigma. Will want to follow up on that window boosted damage. So overall, really fun stuff to consider. I think that's all I really have as a
Yeah,
support.
I don't really have much for tanks. It's just very straightforward, I feel.
I hesitate.
Well, I also have that, but beyond what I've explained.
I think here's a good question. Um, well, never mind.
Okay.
I wanted to be like, what if they run like a brawl comp or whatever, or like
Oh, whoopee.
how might we expect to play that?
Well, basically, Brawl is going to want to stop the cart. Because, that's what Brawl wants to do. They like to play the point. So let's say I want to take these hooligans back to first really quick, just because I feel like it's an easier example to provide.
Sure.
Let's say we're playing
I'll give us one
here.
Reinhardt to signify.
Cool. Yeah. Let's say we're playing here and we're looking to set up our thing over in this kind of angle. But, uh-oh, this guy shows up. Basically, what happens is that whole concept of forcing them into the like back, oh my god, pencil tool, the back sort of area kind of goes out the window because they play so together. And basically what happens is you kind of have to set up around the point pretty much, considering those points of contention, which here, excuse me, here, um a lot of brawl comps will like to play here. Second point, perhaps right here. Oh, you can't really see that, but in where the payload is there. Um, you just have to consider those sort of areas where Brawl wants the payload to stop and where Brawl is most benefited from. So, usually a lot of them will start up here, but then as the fight goes on, they'll just slowly channel back, and then Ryan will stay here for the most part while the rest of his team just plays in this back area, which is super annoying. But the nice thing about this comp is none of us really need to be that close to them. And if they try to force something to happen on the cart, Arissa will live a brawl engagement. Like, I hate to say it, but she will. She'll live at least one of them. Um, but yeah, you should just look to set up your team basically around the point, pretty much, and just kind of look to close sightlines and control a lot of sightlines surrounding the point. That's why we have Tracer. Oh my god, here, Sigma over here, Widow would be up here to provide some depth to it, and also still controls this long sightline that she likes. Zen's back here, and then all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of pressure coming from a lot of angles on that.
Yeah,
Or hell, if Widow even wants to be here to kind of catch, like, if the Rhine pushes, she can catch someone, back in this area, which would be very juicy, very spicy.
I was gonna
But
say.
basically,
Oh yeah, good.
that's basically too long didn't read is the areas of control that we kind of force them into normally don't really apply because they'll move most likely as six around that guy. So you just kind of have to set up your sight lines around that, because basically the area that we want to force them to play in is basically just going to be dictated by how they move, because we're not really going to stop them from moving somewhere if they want to. So we're really just going to have to kind of control the area around where we expect them to go, pretty much. Would you agree with that for the most part?
Sure. I was gonna say I'm no history major, and I'm certainly no tactics or battlefield manager or whatever historian or like a general. But I think we can even like, considering that say they are a brawl with a speed boost of some sort. Obviously, very important to keep our backline away. And provided we're like running the angles that we're running here, we don't want to give them a single target who is not willing and able to take this sort of brawl. So I think like it's really important um, to bait the enemy back. So let's say they hard engage on our Orisa. I think walking back is really big, and I think creating a pincer or splitting them in some way is really valuable. So if we can move into a position where, say, they're attacking our Arisa and they're trying to hard int on her, the rest of us can position to take angles around them, or we can surround them and find picks from there and pressure, as our Arisa, say, is moving.
Yes.
So I think we can even like this style of Arisa is actually it, it was
I
used quite a
like
bit
it.
in the Arisa metas, but you just gotta
Yeah.
know when to run and sort of to you letting your trusting your Arisa to run
It was
successfully and
it was
trusting your
used it
teammates to
was
cover you.
I think it was used mostly in the Reaper Doomfist meta of Double Shield. Orisa was a lot of the bait and switch kind of thing. I think at least.
I found it more common in the Arisa Ryan metas that they used to
Okay,
run in like
oh
Overwatch
well,
League and stuff like that.
oh well, yeah.
Yeah, whatchamacallit.
I've
Either
mostly a
way,
lot of those I get,
I
but yeah.
remember I sweated during that time because I was really excited about like double main tank. It
Mahjong Tower was a war zone,
was absolute chaos. It was
literally.
super fun. Window pull fire or fire strike anybody.
We
Good
might.
stuff though. Once again,
Um, but yeah, I
yeah.
guess that's it really.
Mm.
Um, just kind of when we go into this map, anticipate snipers out the gate and just be wary of those sightlines. Widow, that's mostly on your knowledge of where you would most likely want to play from. We'll do a defense video as well, but yeah,
Yeah. Again, like snipers, be respectful. If the enemy isn't running any form of like flanker or something that is going to require like a hard CC, maybe swapping BAP is fun because extra shield damage that you won't get off of Brig, pretty decent group healing, and Window, which is just a very fun synergistic ult with how we want to play,
just
controlling and
depends.
working sightlines.
It just depends on if they have flankers or not.
Yep, and whether we need the hard CC to stop them.
Yes.
Besides that, though, again, like Widow, peeking angles sort of one by one, we're looking to sort of clear angles and preserve your own life more than we're looking to go on Ilios Specialist Pine Flank of the Year 2018 or whatever. Um, we're not looking for Reddit. We're looking for more responsible and measured Widow play. Um, at least I can speak for myself when I say that. Um, Besides that, for the rest of us on Zen and stuff like that, Zen Brig or just our support line, they're running something that can engage really hard onto our front line or onto our core, our Risa and you guys. Do be distanced. Use your cover. Zen could be sort of opportunistic with peaks. Just be smart about it. Or measured, I should say, like your Widow. And yeah, do you have anything for Sigma? I feel like he's the only one I haven't really talked about.
Sigma, he kind of helps enable um forcing those sight lines because Orisa, as like in the realm of tanks, Orisa can't really force people into sight lines the same way Sigma can because Rock hurts a lot, and Hands is just kind of like, well, you either leave or I keep coming. Um, and then his shield is very flexible in that sense. So that's why I don't at least with how Overwatch has evolved over the past couple patches. I don't like putting Sigma with the core of the team anymore, just because he's so like I wouldn't say independent of the core, but he just kind of is able to do his own thing and be fine for the most part. Granted, that whole shield nerf really puts a thumb up his ass. Um, but I still think it's doable in this sort of well, at least on this map because God, the sightlines are so big. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
I don't
think
have anything.
when you're playing the Sigma, it's just respectful to like follow up, of course, on your Reese's polls and acknowledge the
Yes.
fact that much like Tracer, you are sort of the poster child of pushing them into our Widow and our core sightlines.
But you do
So
it like a lot harder because you
uh, you
have
do it through presence. Tracer does it through
yeah,
poking. So
yeah.
Tracer's more subtle, you are more face tanky, and with this sort of combined network of pressure that you guys have, um, I hesitate to say that you'll have no problem because convincing an enemy team to do anything is pretty hard, but pushing them into an area where we can follow up is just in your genes. So please do take advantage of those opportunities.
Should we just roll into defense? at this point?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, okay. So here I'm even less inclined to have Brig on defense because like now we're not, obligated to move anywhere.
Hmm.
So I really think having BAP on defense would be better to start. I think it would be better to just start on BAP period. Um yeah. But especially on defense. Brig is a bit more flexible on offense because we're going to move naturally. But since this is where we start to just hold sight lines. Um, yeah. Okay, so first kind of setup, I guess. You know, funny farm business. Uh, Arissa and I don't really know how many other people we want to put up there, but I guess I don't know where you. I guess you could put those supports wherever you
Um,
feel most comfortable having them. Because I'm thinking just something like this to start.
do you want to put Arisa high ground, or do you want to put Sig high ground?
I want to put Arisa high ground.
What for?
Sigma does nothing for the first 10 seconds.
But is it worth hanging our supports for on the ground?
I don't think they're going to. Well, this isn't permanent.
It's not permanent, but I want to. I'll tell you what I want. Obviously, I want this. I want some control over this room. I want. This is a good outpost for our tracer, and I want her to sort of live around there potentially. But what I don't want is for us to get a little overzealous peeking main like we may have a tendency to because we're both BAP and Zen, not Brig and Zen, so there's no shield, there's no like double shield business that you guys can both get while Sigma's shield is down to really poke. I don't want to do nothing for these seconds. I would
I'm not.
rather.
I'm not saying that BAP and Zen have to play low ground.
Well, neither am I. I'm just saying I want to follow up wherever we can.
Yeah. So why wouldn't we just start them up here, and then these four. Oh my god. These four just slowly, once the first duration shield goes down there, and by this time the second one breaks, you're gonna want to be down here anyway because card's gonna be in a place where you need to be.
If the enemy team is, why am I moving Sigma? The enemy team is anything like us in the terms of strategy, they will be pressuring where we came from very hard, and I do not trust this rotation outside. I like not for a second. I don't.
See when I'll. But I just don't like Sigma up here to start.
I don't like him. I mean, he was a weird dude anyway.
I don't know. Maybe it's my min maxing that's just on tank. That's just like man, because like the only thing Sigma really does is this position is just Shield Widow, and like I don't really care about early picks here.
Then
Because then I bet Payload would eventually show up here. You maybe should stop the video.
hmm. I think it's good. I think I'd actually like to keep this thought process going.
Okay, but I don't want to confuse the players with our, banter.
Hmm. Well, none of this is set in stone. It's gonna be how they play the
I
game.
know. Yeah, I guess. Well, in that case, eventually when the payload gets here, Sigma up there is nice. I like that a lot. Is he going to have to leave eventually because we don't have a strong presence up there? Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's just weird. I guess it's just up to our players and how they want to set it up. Because I think you can do either, really. It just depends on if you want, min maxing ult charge or play for the late game, which is, I guess, what we're pretty much doing here
Like
on this first
my
point.
only problem, like I just worry about our Sig low ground because I feel
Mm.
like it's going to be in our tendencies to sort of swing around here and obviously looking for ult charge and farming ult charge and stuff like that. But if we're not doing well, this is potentially pretty greedy because the only place he has to retreat to is here, and say they're anywhere on cart up here, just the sight lines just open up on him, and I worry about that.
Well, if we're starting Sigma down there, I really pray to God that he doesn't go in that room ever.
But it's so
'Cause-
tempting, right?
But he doesn't need to.
Then what
Well
does
then,
he do?
well then, here's that. I guess just look at that, and then if people try to go in there, he just controls this by standing there.
I think that's sort of equivalent to this.
But he doesn't. Dude, I don't know.
I,
From a tank's perspective, if I'm playing Sigma, I want to start down here.
go ahead then. Anyway, I think what's more important is what we're playing for here, which again is working for our Widow and our Core sight lines. So assuming we all do start up here, um, having our Tracer potentially to, again, because they're sort of in a lane here and we have a payload to stop, what's more important is whatchamacallit, not there's probably not going to be a lot of space to push them to or push them away from, aside from dissuading them from this right side room. So what concerns me most on Tracer is sort of either playing around here, which could be pretty funny around Cafe or whatever I guess this is, or high ground and securing low health kills and just existing here. I think this is a pretty powerful spot to hold potentially. There's even a health pack in the bottom. Let's see.
But yeah,
What the Yeah, go ahead.
I think I don't know. I'm still just mulling over what you were saying. I think it depends on what the enemy runs and if we defend first. If we defend first, that. If we attack first and we know that they aren't playing brawl on this map, that. Just a quick side note.
Mm.
But yeah. Anyways, um, once payload gets here, because again, it will. We should start looking to do that thing that Peach was describing earlier, where our Orisa starts to back up in this sort of manner, which just opens the sight lines for the rest of us to, look down and just spray on top of them, in a sense, because we really don't want to lose this high ground, like as much as possible. If it's taken from us by force, then there's nothing we can really do. If we lose our Widow or our Zen, we're leaving. Um, and then yeah, Tracer's back here as well to,
Yeah,
chase the backliners, poke them, be annoying, cause some diversion. But yeah,
I like this chase. I
that is
think
a very
she's
good
fun.
Tracer spot.
Um,
She is a fun spot. She's in a funny spot.
yeah, I think it's important to consider sometimes too, like what happens if we get forced off of here. Like if they clear this, I think, man, I guess you do have the potential to blink across here if you absolutely needed to. That'd actually be pretty funny. Um, but as long as like hold the spot for as long as you feel comfortable holding it. Again, we're not playing for all these like turbo aggressive kills and like hard engages. We're playing for sort of poke and following up when they're lacking resources sometimes. So just try and exist here as long as you can. If they force you off the angle, um it's just the type of player I am, but I think it'd be really funny to double down and go further. I That's soft feeding and
If it
potentially
gets
hard feeding. So
if it gets forced out and the payload is like here, I would totally agree with that. Is the thing.
yeah, if the payload's all the way up there and they can't realistically get to you, you just outrun anybody who's there anyway. So there, you might as well double down, sort of. But
Yeah.
they're well within reach of you. I'd recommend maybe moving back here and looking to sort of re-establish around this flank, whenever you can, including this area. Now it looks
Yeah.
kind of like a happy robot, dude. Stand.
But yeah. If the payload somehow manages to get up into this area, Sigma. It's weird because that's out of Sigma's like reach, really. I don't know.
I think it's
Like
like right there.
I actually want to find out after this. Like I want to go in game.
I
Um,
I feel like I've been poked from there before.
It's probably enough to poke, but I don't think it's enough to really like get somebody is the thing. Then
I've
again,
been juiced
I guess we
here.
don't really need to. Oh, well, that's always funny. Um, but yeah, just kind of like spraying down from that top side, very cool. As Orisa, you want to exist in and around cart as much as possible. If things get really scary, I think it depends on what they're playing, but you could either go back here. This is a really risky spot, really greedy, but like playing around this structure is really funny for Orisa. But the safer spot is like back here, really. Just because you have this whole structure, which is controlled safely by your Widow and Zen. If anyone walks back there to kill you, oh my god, they're dead. Well, they should die at least. This okay, TLDR. This is a risky spot, but works depending on what they have. This is the safer spot, but it's I don't know. Sure, that well, a Septagon
Oh.
to represent the safer spot. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just amazed at the fact that you created a Septagon. I was like, oh. I think if you're Tracer, obviously you don't really have the high ground advantage as much anymore, but you can play around this sort of structure here. I just be careful because
Yes.
again, you're on the same sort of level as the enemy. If you're Arisa, again, we're sort of playing from street here and potentially playing around here. Um, I worry about our friends up here. Does Widow really need to be here? I wonder.
Not forever.
I ask myself, wink, nudge. I just don't know where I'd move her.
That's the thing. Maybe no, this structure sucks on defense for her.
Like back left is a possibility. Um,
I
but
think it doesn't really control the sightlines mm, maybe, but it doesn't really give Widow a good sightline on their back other than this, which they're what they're which Jesus Christ, their back line's already going to be afraid of because of these three and this one. So I don't really like that position on Widow.
I suppose
And
my
then
yeah,
some other ones like in theory, this is the best one, but it's like the sniper spot for that reason, which is like, super annoying. And then you also have to be careful if you're there. Well, I guess you don't have to worry because your tracer's there to control it. Never mind. Here is okay. It gives somewhat decent sight lines, but you really is just gonna like be looking at a shield for the most part. I am inclined, I'm actually really inclined to say here.
that'd
But
be crazy.
it's a super dangerous spot, but oh my god, it's juicy.
Yeah,
It's
I
a big
think you totally
I
would
take
want
it
to
back.
rotate there. Yeah,
If Arissa plays over on this structure in this back area, I totally think Widow can use this structure over here to really just make people pay, whether it be the ledge, this spot, or this spot right here.
and we have the Tower of Power over here to really potentially
True, yeah.
pressure a push onto them, which is what I'm concerned with. I don't want my boys getting the new core, the neo
The new.
core, to get too bored.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say this though, like just as a contingency, if this like high ground tower of power does get forced out, you guys are gonna want to move. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they should move all back here. I guess
um, at this point, I think
because like my thing is like, where else do they go? Right? Sigma can stay up here, but it's risky for him.
if it's a safe rotation, I would like best case like us to move back with our Orisa, and then our Widow can sort of rotate because now we have a lot of pushing power if they're existing with our Orisa. Our Sigma is in this spot from main, which is pretty good. Um,
You're saying these two go around?
yeah, Bap Zen, and then our Widow
I'm
can move
afraid
around
I'm
here.
afraid of how long that might take
Oh, for sure, time would be a
because
constraint.
I want to hold this as long as possible, right? And this is more of a contingency for if we lose that. So I don't know if sending them back that way would be smart for the amount of time we would have to do so, unless we decide to make that as an early rotation, which would then work. But again, that high ground is really nice. Maybe if we want to send one of our supports over there, that could work. I don't know which one you would want to send in that situation. Probably Zen back that way
I don't really want to move both of them.
independently.
Yeah, I sort of hesitate to. So let's say in this scenario, if the enemy pressures us out from high ground, and now they control this little spot here and potentially here, um, what concerns me, my first order of business, is the fools on the ground, because there's a good chance that we can smoke these people. And let's assume we just freshly drop. Um, my first concern is these fools on the ground here. So hmm, this is an interesting situation.
Well, we can't forget that Tracer's in the back at all times, regardless. So
For sure. I don't know why in my mind I
it'll make these
assumed
things
she
a
was
little
already
bit
dead.
easier.
um,
um, that being said, with the Tracer in the back, if we want to use her, oh wait, oh whoa, if we kind of make like a pseudo push on them and a pseudo vice to enable that rotation back here.
yeah, like I want that pressure, and that's what I mean. Like we have like time was our constraint no matter what. But I worry about sort of writing a blank check and how able we'll be to recognize that mid match. That's
Right,
all.
and if they also take that high ground, this guy's gonna be boned if he doesn't go like over here.
I think that's okay though. That adds more pushing power to our little frontal force. It makes them probably want to converge main again. So if they do give up this high ground or something, there's a chance we can sort of like maybe consider this option. I tried to draw like
Yeah.
an ooh because I was gonna say wink nudge again obnoxiously, but
Well, here we are.
yeah, we live in a world, don't we? At this point, I think we should probably have ults, so like maybe or getting close.
Oh,
And
they get
if
the
we have
stun up.
Bapple, we can sort of strong arm this sight line again, out of
Should we move
necessity
on to
at least.
should we move on to second? Because I
Yeah.
think that's most everything to think about for that. Um, man, starting on second as double shield is weird. Um, I'm guessing you would want to have Tracer exist in like this area under, or would you prefer she hangs out left side?
Honestly, I'm more thinking about our core right now in my
Yeah.
mind. Um, Let me move them here. I've got to run myself through this. If we're playing here, I want to start clearing angles. Like we're gonna be like a SWAT team up in this. Um, Say we take
Oh, are you
here like a
considering that we're late spawning because we're gonna like stall out first? Well, I guess that is what we're kind of playing for.
yeah. I feel like if we get
Yeah.
here, then we lose. I guess. I actually didn't even think about that at all. But let's see. Oh, but how nice would it be to sort of go over here, and then our tanks can set up. I guess here. I want to clear this angle first, if possible. I guess
Mm-hmm.
our friends will see that. Um,
You want to clear the angle?
I want to clear it so the rest of us can sort of like hard claim it. Like maybe setting up a defense here is all right. Um, I just want to set
Oh,
us up
unless
such
you want.
that's the case.
I was gonna say I don't know if you want to send signal with Widow in that case. Actually, I think that angle's gonna be clear just by the pressure of this.
Yeah, like as we all move up here, I think whatchamacallit, it should be enough to work this angle a little bit. Just have to be mindful
Yeah.
of not getting sniped right as we turn the corner. Um,
My my concern with setting up a defense in this sort of area is the as if we have to do that and leave. I'm just worried about like one of these two getting caught.
mhm.
I don't really know how you would alleviate that as a support player, but because Bat doesn't have to be up there, but they would both prefer to because the angles are going to be looking down
Yeah,
here and here.
like I think we want to play like turbo chads to an extent here,
Mm.
and what that says to me is maybe we play for pull for a bit up here, but then we have to start like spreading a little bit. So Tracer's gonna be a weird piece in this. sort of
Yes.
structure as we move out here. Ooh.
What would you think about going? I think that never mind. It'll be if they stop cart.
Hmm.
But I was gonna say having, oh my god, having them go over here instead,
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable too.
and then doing this instead. This is more of a if you stop cart and are able to like actually set up kind of thing. I think just because funny business
You know, I don't really worry about them over here, but I do worry
starting
about
there.
them left. Or no, the enemies. I worry about the enemies coming from that right door.
Uh huh.
If they come here, then obviously we double shield and we do our thing. But if they come from like say left side or something, I kind of want our tracer over here so she can scout. Um,
Okay. Well, if we wanted to scout, you can just start up here and then just leave.
well, I want to like she can scout up there, but I want her to be like around here
No,
for the
yeah, that's
record.
yes,
um,
yes. you know,
no, my
you
heart's
knew.
too weak. I've
Any
seen
any
enough of this.
any peekers?
Yeah, guys, don't worry, I
Any
carry. And then,
any leaving spawners? I can get one in there and then just be done with it.
yeah, you certainly could. I'm just jaded as a support player, and I'm tired of rezzing that.
No, yeah, that's why I'm saying we should do it.
Yeah, just to get it out of our system, I guess. So if you really
Yeah,
want to peek there, and if
that
I
is a
don't even
one-time
know,
thing, though. That is a one-time thing.
you smell it in the air.
Yeah, if you smelt it, you dealt it, but please deal it. That's one of the constraints of doing it. But yeah, I think it just depends. I think how we play on this sort of setup, if that's what we commit to on like if we retake, I think it depends. Like, because if cart's here, we can literally just stay there forever. But if cart's here, we have to anticipate an early rotation.
Mhm.
Unless they're stupid and try to force us off this way by like running at us, which would be a terrible idea for them. Um, because if they're smart, they will go this way in either of these situations,
Yes.
or try to like take up here. But you just have to be considerate of that and consider where the payload is and anticipate on if you're going to have to leave and set up in this sort of manner
Uh,
earlier or later.
This is assuming the enemy makes it here.
Yeah, that's assuming if the enemy does reconvene and gets, into this area.
Yeah, I'm like pre-moving in my mind. I go like clack, clack, um,
Yeah.
clack, 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 and
That's more of a if
maybe.
payload gets here thing, to be honest. What you're setting up.
Hmm? I want to set this up no matter what. Like, I want to
Yeah.
claim as Sigma, and if they decide to push Sigma, then of course our Widow gets a wider angle.
Yes.
Um, I think Tracer here can sort of poke and exist from the back, which is really pesky and fun. Just please don't
Yes.
get too tapped by a Kree or something like that. Um,
Literally.
Play for your safety. I think it should be Window City. So Sig, feel free to take a little damage so you can farm him. Um, and man, ooh, that could be juicy. That could be good. But again, like what we're thinking about is like sightline control and stuff like that, and incentivizing them to move in this direction, where the rest of our funny friends and crew can really potentially vice some good lanes of pressure.
Hmm.
So always
But
think
yeah,
about that.
if payload gets like here, we're kind of screwed.
Payload
Just,
gets on here,
just,
pray.
just if payload rounds this corner, that's really all I have to say about that. Also, Arissa, don't be afraid to stall, but also be mindful of your shield leaving this area, because then these guys are just up here
Oh man.
like if that goes away, they're just kind of like, just be careful. But yeah, it will be on you to kind of like stall the guard if needed to start, and then everybody just kind of dog piles on top of it as we reconvene for late spawns. Speaking of which,
Late spawners. We got some late spawners.
There they go.
Alright.
Well, I think this is painfully obvious.
Of course, right?
Bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow. Oh, pow.
Now here's something I see, and I just want to raise a question for the
I smell it.
record.
I
Yeah,
smell it. I
right?
think.
That's what I like. Here's something that could happen. It certainly could exist. Ew, she's in the hole. Ew. Whatchamacallit, this certainly could exist. And that would be funny. Ooh. I wonder if we can pull like the Column Magagus special where he sends Sigma up here and then he goes forward a little bit and this is the spot where he pokes and does his little thingy. Oh my. Apparated him. So he pokes and does his thingy and then all of a sudden he gets sad because his shield is gone and then maybe we reconvene top. Shield is top.
Huh.
Ew.
You know, that's the sound he makes. So
That it is the sound he makes, yeah.
yeah.
Um
I think that might take a little too long, but it
Well,
could work.
yeah, I just don't know what we do in this position besides just like yell at them angrily. Well, point is like here, so
Yeah.
I think it's acceptable for
Well, if it's late spawning, our first setup is going to be that probably down there somewhere.
probably
And then
that. Hit them with the
that.
econ. Oh, there
And
you
then
go.
if we retake, then it's this type of deal.
Hmm. I'd like to see that honestly. It'd be funny just for the meme.
I really want to see it. Yeah. Um. Here's my thing. I don't want us to be in a situation where we back away from this. You know what I'm saying?
For
Like
sure.
if Halo gets to here, we either fight it and we win, or we die on it. Because what I don't want is some awkward poke to be happening where like this happens.
Oh
Because
yeah,
then like because
baby.
then like
Oh,
because then like what the fuck are these guys doing? Like they're screwed.
awkward.
And then we stagger payload and then we're actually just boned. Because what I want us to do is I want us to die on that. Because what happens is we just come out and it's like, hello, do you want this? Do you want Slenderman potion or Siren Head potion? You can't have both. And then we give them both. Are you mad at me for introducing that into an actual like team video?
Huh? No.
Sorry. Okay. But yeah. Um yeah, because then we just kind of, avenue our way into that. And it's just kind of like, because, they have to be there now because it's this sort of thing. And they'll cower behind payload. And if they cower behind payload, that gives us time to just Tracer's underneath, by the way. You get time to set up that. And this hurts a lot.
I worry about what happens if they either hard turtle behind point at all times, or like obviously we can open up with ultimates and flux and stuff like that, but assuming we don't have
Yes.
that. And second of all, if they engage on one of the groups, how we will respond.
No, the others are going to be up top. They're going to be on the high ground. They're not all going to be playing underneath.
Yeah,
Yes.
but in
Like
the event that I don't
mean
know,
them
they
you mean
just
them like
int onto us.
you mean where they like do that?
Yeah, something
That's
like that,
weird.
or even in rotation. Like this is
If
a
they
very
could
spawn campable point, and for that reason, like by setting up on this exact location that we're at, um, so that's what I worry about. It's a pretty high level strat though, so I wouldn't count on that.
I don't expect them to do that. I expect that if we like force the fight here and we all just like die over here, I don't expect them to have the gall to run all the way up. I don't know why I fake myself out there. I don't like to run all the way up there and set up. I don't really expect them to do it. But if they do it, if that is in their heart of cards, man, I think it depends. If they set up here, I think the way we had them come out of spawn is fine. Except maybe you do a little of this.
Here's my thing. Tracer touch cart. If you can't touch cart, then we got a real emergency.
Yeah.
Um, Tracer Widow probably peek left.
Well, if we die there, cart's gonna be ending up around here. Like if we walk out of spawn doors, cart will be there by the time. So I think we'll have time.
Hopefully. In the event of a disaster situation like this, though, where the enemy is holding one of these
That's why
against us.
that's why I really want the cart. That's why I want us to force the fight like there
Huh?
on that first. I don't want it to like
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, that
I'm
was out of
just
my
thinking
view.
to give us the maximum amount of time as possible, and then we slowly just kind of fall onto the point from this high ground, and then Tracer just comes in and stalls as long as possible. But the cart has to stop like there, like it can't stop here, or it can't stop here. It has to be like before it turns that corner.
Mhm.
It's like Orisa, because Orisa can touch cart from here, because it's funny.
Smile.
But yeah, uh, like cart really realistically should be in this realm by the time we're walking out of spawn doors. Preferably more back here.
Yeah, just recognize the fact that Tracer can touch the point on defense. Like, I think that's pretty good. If
Yeah.
nobody's really safeguarding it.
And then if you do retake, obviously getting set up in that same manner, not sending Sigma Widow up here though, and having Tracer sit there though. If the payload stops or in and around this entire like back avenue, you just kind of play very carefully. And then, once the enemy gets around here, you just start to slowly, move your way back. Orisa can stay here. Sigma can go up with these guys hanging out in the area. I don't really know where you would want to put them. And then, bam, bop, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, as a support, I just want to poke main and follow up on pull. I think it's fun.
Yes. Okay, but yeah. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything else.
Uh, yeah, I don't really have anything else either.
This took so much longer than I thought it would.
It's only because we did the second part unplanned.
Yeah.
They run a sniper and they run a widow. There's a funny spot that maybe works against them. It's a slower room. I've gotten way too many people on it.
Where?
This lower room on
Oh,
third. If
that
you
lower. Oh, yeah,
peek as
because they woke
Zen,
up.
there's another
Yeah,
thing
if you
where you can
peek,
peek under this structure here, this little gray box or
you
whatever.
can peek under that.
You can peek under that. I had a
Underneath of
highlight
it.
under last patch,
That's
where
so
with me
gross.
shooting under this to get a widow who was like,
I'm closing Stat Banana, by the way.
okay, here or so. But yeah, good Zen positions there. Oh, killed me, unlucky, but that's
Oh.
okay. Guess I'll just go to my other scene here. But yeah, whatchamacallit, yeah, just be mindful of your positioning, I guess, and really don't try to peek anything that's not behind the shield. And if you do, do it for good reason. Like I'm rotating here, or this or
Yes.
that. Generally, stay with your core. With that, though, I think that's everything. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed just seeing us work through some of our process as we decide things and stuff like that. Hopefully, we can make this work in
We got 2
scrims.
more on the way.
Yes, sir.
um, yeah, I guess you can stop the video.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you guys.
Cool.